Hello, Kyle. How are you?
I'm well, Sandra. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing all right. Thank you for taking the time to give us a little bit of feedback on your experience here at Vertical Motion, your experience here with our coaching sessions. Why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself and your professional background?
Yes, absolutely. So, Kyle Matthews, I'm a director in the consumer packaged goods industry. I spent a little over 10 years of my career working in the healthcare area of that industry, recently moved into food and beverage.
Mm.
I'm fortunate to lead and serve a team of over 30 and have absolutely had a passion for purpose-driven leadership and being able to serve the people that are on my teams.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember when you first came, you were transitioning to your next role. Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you were facing and maybe some of the thoughts you were having as you were looking at what your next role was going to be.
I would say the overall journey for me was a bit of a roller coaster. So
Mm.
where I was introduced to the community and vertical motion was more or less at the bottom of that, more of a valley, so to speak, in
Mm.
terms of my time at my past organization coming to an abrupt end due to reorganization,
Mm.
more of just some consolidation of roles that were happening and some divesting of businesses. Being a competitor at heart and someone who absolutely loves what they do and pours everything that I have into what I do, it became to an abrupt end and it wasn't on my timeline. So as I thought about what was next, it was certainly a little bitter initially, but then sweet as it shifted into what my next chapter could be. And I look back on the experiences that I had at the old company, and it was more of an attitude of gratitude and not bitterness. At more of the end stage before I leaped into my next role in my next organization, and was able to really be disciplined in what I was looking for next and not desperate. And through that, I made sure my connections in my network were tight. I was continuing to bring more people into my network, but making sure that quality was there, not quantity, in terms of those people that I valued and those people that I trusted with guidance. And where the community met me was someone who was about to launch themselves into a new organization, new culture, new brand, new book of business, and was eager and excited to learn and to jump into that role. Also needed some guidance because this was, like I said, a bit of a roller coaster for me. And it was important for me to ensure that I was set up for success and that I
Mm.
had guidance along that way at that part of the journey for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know if this is something that people do. I think when they experience a layoff or a position ends, there is a bit of a obviously a bit of a shock, a bit of a disappointment, but I think it was really interesting that the first one of the first things that you did is think, okay, how do I bolster myself during this transitional period? How do I bring in, some expertise, some coaching to get me not only through that time, but also to start looking at what's next? How do I build what is next? And I will say it was very, very evident from our first conversation that you were a pro. I can tell that you have utilized coaches in the past. I think you came with an agenda. Here's what I want to talk about. This is what I want to solve. So that for me was very refreshing.
I would say, Sandra, it's in and to those listening in and interested about making a move like I did, whether professionally or seeking to tap into a professional and executive leadership network. It's what you put in is what you're going to get out. And I'm not in the business of wasting anyone's time.
Yeah.
And I think I set that expectation up front. Having that guidance and coaching is something I truly value because others have leaned in and guided me along the way.
Hmm.
And I saw the impact that it had on me, not just going through what I went through, but truly growing through what I went through and being intentional in those moments to ensure that those experiences don't define me and that I define those experiences.
Yeah, no, that's very, very clear. So you've been a real pleasure to work with and alongside. And I will say that hopefully I've provided some some good support for you, but I've actually learned a lot from you. And I will probably take some of the ideas and the ways of operating in a period of what many are going to consider a crisis. You seem to put a strategy to it and you were very intentional, you were very focused. And so that is a breath of fresh air. So, and I will say, that it worked, right? It worked really, really well. I also like what you said about activating your network. Again, very intentional in how you operate. You were identifying very specific people, having very specific conversations, and I think that your network was strong coming in, and your reputation was strong coming in, which made it, I think, certainly a lot easier. And I think it made the gap between one role and the next much shorter than most might experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, looking back, absolutely. Sometimes, even as someone who, like that, like I said, seems to, over time have a good head on their shoulders and have learned through some pretty professionally challenging experiences. I look back and I'm really pleased with what happened to me and how I reacted to what had happened.
Mm,
And I think it built a lot of resilience and a lot of thick skin. But I could not have done it without those close in my community and you, Sandra. I mean, you were a critical component and just being able
mm.
to weigh in and provide a different perspective on what I was going through and be able to lean in on your experiences as well as those within the community and what you've heard and seen from others. It's just this idea that we're all learning together and all growing together, and I certainly have felt that. I'd like to think if it wasn't for the support of you and the community as well as my network and those close confidants of mine, I don't know I would be where I'm at today. So I'm extraordinarily grateful. I know at the end of the day, it's up to me to do what I do and say what I do and follow those words with action.
Mhm.
But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the impact and the value and the benefit that I've seen through my network.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. And so you've been in a position for a little while. I think about maybe human nature is all right. So I went, I got what I needed in terms of I'm in my next role. I think that you could have very easily said, awesome, thank you so much. It's been great. See you around. But what I have noticed is you and I are still having these really great conversations around really, you start, anybody starts a position, it's like, okay, the conversation shift from how and what and where to first 90 days.
Yes.
Okay, how do I come in strong? What do I need to execute in my first 90 days? And again, I believe you were really clear. You really already had the foundational ideas of what you need to establish in the first 90 days. Top of that list is trust. Do you feel like, I feel like that was something that you got to accomplish pretty quickly? Again, your reputation, your level of integrity in the way that you work. But really, my point is, I think when people get to that level that they want to, or they think that they maybe they've arrived, the coaching, the mentoring, they step away from that. And I just want to commend you for not doing that. I feel like you're still in it. You're a lifelong learner. So talk a little bit really to people who maybe that's what they would do. Like, I've got the job, I'm good to go. Like, how is it after you get what you're going for? How important is it to continue the process of being coached, of having a network, of having a group of people who support you in that season?
Yeah, I would say, those, well, one, I mean, prior to joining Vertical Motion and prior to us, Sandra, being able to work together and learn from each other, I was fortunate to have a coach for several years, and I did a lot of full disclosure, a little pro bono work for me. I was a bit of his guinea pig as he put me through a bit of a program. He's now
Mm,
stood up his own coaching organization, primarily focusing on company and organization
mm,
coaching, not individual coaching. So that's really the difference on, well, why did you go to Vertical Motion and not stay with him? But I saw so much value in working with John. And through those 16 weeks and through that boot camp and the high performance training, it was completely eye opening for me. And it was everything from fear to emotion to just being very raw and real around my emotions, because it really digs down to who you are as a human in these conversations. And then for me to then jump and find you guys at the find Vertical Motion at more of the crossroads of in between roles and companies, that's really where you need to double down, and that's really where you need to invest in yourself and
mm,
invest in your network, is those moments when your back's against the wall. And I
mhm,
was fortunate to have some great coaching along the way, more informal mentorships, formal mentorships from managers and such, that really instilled in me the power of the network. And when you really see the power is when you need it the most. And that really showed up for me as I was in between roles and accelerated even further, bringing in the vertical motion community. So
Yeah.
I would say to those that are in between roles or really comfortable with where they're at, it's don't wait. Maybe a little bit of learning for me is like, don't wait till you're in between jobs to then find this community. When you're comfortable, think about that comfort and thinking about what you can do to push yourself beyond that comfort
Mm,
and invest in yourself.
mm,
and
mm.
and you should always be investing in yourself, and that can look a hundred different ways to a hundred different people.
Yeah.
uh, I think this community will find, you can put your fingerprint on this community and find your way of how you contribute to this community, how you provide value to this community. And I do really feel like that has happened in return to me with where I'm at, which is not only a ambitious professional and leader and executive, but also someone who's a father of two young boys, where my schedule is all over the place and I can't be as disciplined or routine or regimented as I'd like to be.
Mm,
And that's where I feel, I feel a bit indebted to the community on just meeting me, Sandra, and you meeting me with where I was at in my journey, not only as a professional, but also as a parent, as a husband,
mm.
father. And that, I would say, trumps the professional side of it, is folks
Yeah.
being able to show up for other folks in those moments where maybe I'm not able to attend those Tuesday, executive calls that
Mm.
are on the schedule because my son's got a T-ball game.
Right, right.
And the community knows that because everybody's a parent or a sister or brother, husband, wife, whatever, right? Everybody's got those values in place. And I think from what I've seen, everybody prioritizes those
Yeah,
before the work stuff.
yeah.
And that I truly, truly am grateful for you, Sandra, and meeting you with where I was at in my journey.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I was happy to do it. I really like the idea. We talk about it. We throw this idea of invest in yourself. You should really invest in yourself. The value of working with someone, whatever it is. Obviously, we're talking about coaching, but the value in working alongside somebody who not only supports you, but can maybe fast track you some answers in whatever situation is the value in that is massive. I think you can spin around in your silo and you can read some books and do the things that we're all doing, but I do commend you for putting yourself on the list of things that are important, because as a parent, we're all fragmented, we're going in a lot of different directions, we have a lot of different responsibilities, but to actually make that decision and decide I am going to invest in myself, because if I can advance myself a lot quicker, that is going to roll down to my family, that is going to roll down to my friends, that is going to roll down to my entire community. So it isn't just we don't just live in a silo, we live in a community. What we do affects the people around us, and so I just think that's really important. I think once you start in the process of life and the family and the obligations and the children, sometimes we stop putting ourselves on the list of what's important. I need to do this for me. So kudos to you. I love the way you think.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure your family does too, and I'm sure your friends do as well. It makes us a better rounded out person. So I guess my last question, and you've kind of hit on it, but if I'm somebody out there and I'm thinking, it seems like a good idea. I don't know. I'm not really sure. We're going to waffle. We're going to give ourselves a reason like not to do it. Maybe I'll do it next year. What would be your recommendation for joining vertical motion, for getting the coaching? What would you say to that person?
I would say your inner monologue as a human being, right? As you think about the
Mm,
person you talk to the most is yourself. Your inner
yeah.
monologue will always work to talk you out of something that your heart believes in and
Mm,
that you feel, deep within yourself that it's the right move. It's never, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, my job's crazy right now. I mean, you could think of dozens and dozens of different reasons on why it's not a good time.
yeah.
And for me, as I shared with you, and as you certainly know, Sandra, and what I'd share with others is, I made that decision in between jobs. I didn't have health care for my family. And I remember having those raw and real conversations with Trevor and Tom saying, I need to understand if this is going to be a good fit for me. And what I
Yeah.
heard from both of them as they were sizing me up for a good fit for the community, just as much as I was sizing them up for a good fit for me. And I love that approach. It's a bit of a two-way street on not an interview in a sense, but it's just like, is this going to work? Are
Right.
you going to put in what you're going to get out? And am I going to give you what you're expecting to get?
Right.
And as they found me, they led with empathy in those conversations.
Mm.
And Trevor, as I know, is a father to a young girl, if I remember, a young his daughter,
Yeah.
and is around Shay, my son's age, at about 4 or so, and it was met with realness
Yeah.
as a father, and saying like, look, I understand and I respect where you're at right now and the decisions that are weighing on you,
Mm.
and we support you, whether it's now or 3 months from now.
Yeah.
But really, you have to reflect on what you're looking to get out of this next chapter and how you need to be set up for success.
Yeah.
And for me, so much it had happened in the last few months, things ending so abruptly. I was all over the place emotionally. I was, I was sad and excited all within the same hour at
Mm.
times. And to reflect in those moments and truly understand and dig deep what was most important for me, it was to double down while my back was against the wall, really double down on myself,
Mm.
double
Mm.
down on where I'm looking to go and what investments I need to be making today in this moment, whether it's a great moment or not, what I need to be doing. And as I consulted my wife in the processes, that's exactly what she said to me.
Wow.
And I was expecting her to say, how to play the safe route, think about the kids and all that. And she did, but she's
Yeah.
like, this is for you, Kyle. And I can tell how much you want this
Mm.
to run towards it. And I think that's the theme that I'd share with anyone is you got to run towards what you're looking to do, run
Mhm.
away from anything that you're afraid of. And
Ooh. Yeah.
I haven't always gotten that right, but
Yeah.
I've learned, and I've learned to be courageous and brave. And I still don't always get it right, but I've
Yeah.
learned to run towards what you want. Don't run away from anything.
Wow, wow, powerful. That's really powerful. And you're very lucky that you have a supportive spouse who also sees the vision of here's what it could be and this is what you need, right? You've kind of been through it. So let's nurture you back to who you really are. When people are DMing and hashtagging executive presence or whatever, you're talking to real people and the people that you're talking to have families and really they are coming from a place of compassion. There are some good conversations with some really good people. So I'm glad you had a good experience. I really honestly have appreciated being able to work with you specifically. You're inspirational, the way you think, the way you strategize, the way you see the bigger picture. So it has been a real pleasure. And I really just want to thank you for all the time that you've invested in the program, in vertical motion, in working with me. It's just been great. So thank you.
Well, I'm very grateful for you, Sandra, and the support that I've gotten from the community, and again, them meeting me with where I'm at in my journey as a father, as a husband, and as an ambitious professional.
Mm,
And I'm excited about what's next. I'm excited about how I'm continuing to level not only myself up, but those around me. Most importantly, is to really try to pay it forward, leave teams, organizations, cultures, and businesses better than I found them, and
yeah,
that's my focus, and that's what I'm excited about.
no doubt you will. Thank you.